Happy Friday, everybody. Andy from WagerTalk.com. Welcome, everyone, to Prop It Up. We got an amazing show for everyone today. We are going to go after Deshaun props. We're also Eric Henry, rushing yards. Can he keep up the insane pace that he's been on? We're going to take a look at Mark Andrews' receiving yards props. And then we're going to look at UFC Nashville Fight Night. We're going to get a best bet from Andrew on that one. And Matt is going to give us a college football win total. Nobody better in college football over at Sports Memo. Love these win totals. Love the team totals. When Matt talks about college football, everyone should listen. So we got a great show. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com and Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. Gentlemen, let's get right into NFL props. Deshaun Watson, pretty polarizing figure for this year in the prop markets. If he looks like he did last year, it's going to be rusty and it's going to be a bad year for Cleveland. If he looks good like he did in Houston, holy cow, do the Browns have themselves a really good quarterback. So, Matt, I'm going to come to you first. Deshaun Watson, we're talking his passing total, 3,650.5 yards. First off, tell everyone where we can find you at and what you have up, and then what you like about Deshaun Watson.
SportsMemo.com. I sent my college football clients the first two win totals that I like in college football. This one that I'm giving out is a free one today on the show. Look, with regards to Deshaun Watson, I mean, obviously last year you kind of throw everything out. He only played in 6 games. He did throw it 170 times in those 6 games. So you're looking at about 25 to 30 attempts per game on average, which I wonder how much the Browns are going to keep running. We know the Browns are a ground-based attack. They want to use Nick Chubb. They want to use Nick Chubb early and often. Remember, Kareem Hunt's still out there a little bit, so he may come back. Who knows? But I like Deshaun Watson's over here. I don't think the Browns gave Watson this insane contract to just have him be a game manager. I think that he's going to be shown off a little bit more. And if you take those 25 to 30 attempts that he did early on and you kind of extrapolate it out over the whole season, I think he's going to approach those years that he had in Houston where he had 3,800 passing yards or 4,100 passing yards. His wide receivers aren't great, but I don't think, as I said, I just don't think the Browns brought him over to have him hand the ball off a bunch of times. I think they're going to be losing in games. I think there's going to be some shootouts in that division. So I like the over here for Deshaun Watson. I'm optimistic that he's going to return to what he was before, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Deshaun Watson, 3,650.5 passing yards. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hector says, prop me up. This coffee isn't working today. We're going to try, Hector. We're going to try and get you some info to build that bankroll. Shout out to Jim. Shout out to Greg. Andrew, coming to you. First off, tell everyone where we can find you at and what you have up at WagerTalk.com. And then tell us your thoughts on Deshaun Watson here on this passing total.
Yeah, good to be here with you guys. A short link, wt.buzz/am. CFL 5% play goes on Sunday. We got some UFC bets going on Saturday, and a CFL free play as well as client play going tonight here on Friday night. Short and simple for me with this one. On this show, we used to always talk about how the Browns are a better team when they run the ball. But the reason why that was the case, well, of course, they had a great running duo, but I did not like the quarterbacks very much. And you talk about throwing it out the window. I like what Matt said there, because you look at some of those numbers. If there's ever a time we can use the word rust, I feel like we have to give Deshaun Watson the benefit of the doubt there, that you're coming in at the weird part of the season. You're going through so much stuff at that point. Now you are the guy. You are the clear starter. You get a full camp. I believe Deshaun Watson, as Matt said, is here for a reason, and to kind of separate this team from just being a run-heavy team. And I'll tell you, they can be one heck of a team if they can have a guy like Nick Chubb running and doing what he does, also establishing a great throwing game as well. So I'm high on Watson going into this year. I believe he can be great for them, and I do believe that we're looking downfield and not just being conservative and playing it safe in the passing game. He has a good arm, and I feel like he can go over this number, Andy. So I'm on the over for our first one here this morning.
Deshaun Watson, 3,650 yards. I've got MLB 2-pack that is up 4-0 in August and hit 62% of our MLB plays since June 1st. So we've been rocking and rolling in baseball. Also got a UFC and PFL pack that is up. So there is a UFC play that is in there right now, and I'm waiting for one prop to come out in PFL, and that will be up. For Deshaun Watson, okay, 3,650 yards. I don't think that sounds like a big number, but last year, only 11 quarterbacks passed for this. So we need Deshaun Watson to be a top 11, top 10 quarterback to go over this number. When he came back, he threw for over 230 times, only once. But I'm with Matt. I think you kind of throw some of those numbers out. I gotta say, I kind of sneakily like this wide receiving core and passing game. I like Amari Cooper. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones. I like Elijah Moore. I like David Njoku. So he's got the weapons. No Kareem Hunt as of now. It would not surprise me in the slightest if Kareem Hunt went back to Cleveland. But if no Kareem Hunt, I wonder if that means they throw it a bit more because Nick Chubb can only carry the ball so many times. My one worry is the end of the season. I'm a little bit worried about December because they've got a lot of cold games there. So they're at Rams. Obviously, that's not cold. But then home to the Jags, that's in Cleveland cold. Home to Bears, that's in Cleveland cold. At Houston is pretty good. But then home to Jets, that's Cleveland cold. And then at Cincy. So a lot of cold weather games. 3,650.5 yards is a pretty big number. I'm going to lean slightly towards the under here on this one. I could see him kind of falling off just a little bit towards the end in some of those cold weather games. If one or two of those cold weather games ends up being really windy and snowy, maybe we get a couple clunkers there towards the end. Also, the threat of an injury, obviously not wishing an injury on anybody, but slight lean to the under, but I got to tell you, I'm not super confident, and I think the number's about right. So there's Deshaun Watson. Up next, we're talking Derrick Henry, the beast, 1,150.5 yards rushing. Tennessee Titans add DeAndre Hopkins to their arsenal. So, Matt, I'll come to you. Let's talk a little bit about Derrick Henry. He's approaching the age where you worry about him, but then again, it's Derrick freaking Henry. So, what do you think about Derrick Henry here in 1,150.5 yards rushing?
Well, I don't, as we've talked about on the show, I don't love the high-end guys. I don't love the low-end guys, too, because there's just no margin for error when you come to a guy like Derrick Henry. I mean, obviously, you look at the carries numbers, 349, 219, 378, 303, and the 219 was because he only went and played 8 games. So when you think about it, 219 carries in 8 games is ridiculous. And yes, we are getting to that age where he starts to potentially break down. It's funny to say this because he's only 29. He will only be 29 entering this season. He'll be 30 if this team makes the playoffs. But he's NFL old, and I worry about him breaking down a little bit. There's not a lot of options here. Ryan Tannehill's still the quarterback, and they still probably don't trust him a ton. I think the carries are going to be there for Derrick Henry. I just don't like playing these guys that you need like perfection almost from him. You need at least 100 yards almost every game. You need him to stay healthy. You need things to break right in a certain way. So this is one of the ones that I will kind of pass on. I'll be looking at individual opportunities to take his over on his carries. I started taking the carries overs a little bit last year when I found certain situations that I think a team was going to run the ball a little bit more. Clearly, they have no problem handing the ball off to him 20-ish times, especially in close games. So I'll be looking more to playing his carries over during the regular season, but his yards over for the whole season, I'm going to probably pass.
Andrew, coming to you. Derrick Henry, he's tormented me as a Colts fan every single freaking game that we face him. He just lines up in the backfield, and you know what's coming, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So Derrick Henry, 1,150.5 yards rushing. What do you think about this total?
Hey, he might have tormented your favorite team, but I know you've made some money off betting on his props, Andy. So it's kind of at least you're balancing things out as far as that's concerned. Second in carries, third in rushing yards overall. One thing I want to mention here, I think I'm looking this year to take him a lot more with receptions or even receiving yards. We saw last year posting career highs in targets, receptions, and yards per route run. I feel like we're going to see a little bit more passing game from him and a little bit him involved in that. And I think that really is, when you look at this team, they tried to make some moves, they tried to make some changes, but you said, Andy, he's Derrick Henry, right? That's kind of the argument we could just use. We could stop right there. But when I look at this team, there's only so much you can continue to drive Derrick Henry to the ground before you start to worry. You guys are talking about age, but that's how it works right now with the running back situation. And that's why there's a whole deal going on right now in the NFL about the running backs not getting paid as much as they deserve and not getting those long contracts they deserve. I'm looking towards the under in this one. As Matt stated, you have to have near perfect games. You can't have any stinkers. And my fear is that there's going to be some games where maybe he does not have the highest of numbers in the running position, but he catches the ball and goes off for a huge run. But that does not count as far as rushing is concerned. So like I stated, he was targeted quite a bit in the backfield there. I feel like he will get some catches, and I'll be looking at him from that perspective. But of course, this is a game-by-game basis, and Derrick Henry is a guy you can always make money on, and don't forget about those anytime touchdowns. But I have my eye this year on his reception prop, Andy.
Nice. I have a lot of the same notes you do. I will say, if he's healthy going into the last half of the season, his schedule sets up beautifully. So week 7, they have a bye week. They come out of the bye week fresh against the Falcons. You should be able to run on them. At Steelers is a tough game. Titans and Steelers always kind of a slobber knocker. At Buccaneers could be terrible by that point. Then they go, Derrick Henry is feasted on the AFC South. And he closes out the season at Jags. We know he can run on them. Panthers, he's going to be able to run on them. Colts, he's definitely going to be able to run on them. At Dolphins, could be tough. I like that defense this year. Then he gets the Texans. He crushes the Texans. He gets the Seahawks. Then he gets the Texans again. And then he gets the Jaguars again. I mean, he closes with Colts, Dolphins, Texans, Seahawks, Texans, Jaguars. Like, if he's healthy and those defenses are a little bit worn down, he is going to end the year in a blaze of glory. It could be one of those fantasy football championship winning, type runs down the line. Football, I don't know. It's so cruel because me being a Colts fan, every freaking time we face Derrick Henry, he kills us. And now he's 29 years old, and I'm like, oh, he's kind of towards the end. I'm kind of sad. I'm going to miss Derrick Henry running for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns and a route to a 28-10 win over us. This might be the last year we can take an over on Derrick Henry. Call me a sentimental fool. I think I might lean towards the over just because this might be the last hurrah for a big number on Henry. Certainly not confident. Don't bet it. But I like the number, and I think I go a little bit over just because of the last half of the schedule. Guys, if you want to hear us talk about any other football players for their future totals for the season, please put it in the comments right after the show. That's where we're taking all these players from. So any position is open. Give us a guy that we haven't talked about yet. We'll go over their props. If you want to hear touchdown totals, receiving totals, passing, rushing, whatever you like, even wins totals. We haven't done any teams wins totals yet. Put those in the comments and please hit the like button. Matt, come to you for our last NFL player prop. We're talking Mark Andrews. The books have this number at 825.5 receiving. Baltimore, they finally get Lamar Jackson situated here. So what do you think about Andrews? He's the clear-cut number 2 tight end in fantasy football, but 825.5 over under on this one.
So here's the couple of things you have to consider when you look at last year, because obviously if you just look at last year, he obviously went over this number by going over the 825 here. But obviously he didn't have Lamar Jackson for half the season. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Tyler Huntley. I think Tyler Huntley is one of the better backup quarterbacks in this league because I think the perfect thing that the Ravens did is they got a quarterback who can run the same system that Lamar can and is, he's obviously a downgrade, but he's not that much of a downgrade. Then the thing you also look at when it comes to Mark Andrews is the Ravens upgraded their wide receiving core. They do not have the worst wide receiving core in the league anymore. Not that they actually did, but you get what I'm saying here when you look at Odell Beckham, who knows what he's going to still have left. Zay Flowers, who has been very impressive. Nelson Aguilar, who apparently is a TikTok sensation. You've got some of these other guys, Laquan Treadwell, everything kind of upgraded a little bit. Plus, they like Isaiah Likely, the backup tight end from Coastal Carolina, so he's going to see some time here. So there's a lot of people to throw the ball to here, which is why you potentially would look at the under. But in the end, When Lamar Jackson needs a completion, when he needs yards, he goes to Mark Andrews. You look at what he did last year, 2 years ago, went over 1,000 yards receiving. Granted, he in 2020 he had 701 yards, but he only played 14 games there. You project out a couple of more games, he probably goes over that number. So it's a tough one. You can make a case for both sides. It's obviously why we're doing the show. I lean to the over here. I think in the end, Lamar Jackson's security blanket, all that other stuff is great, but when he needs a large catch and a reception that's going to help them win a game, he's going to go to Mark Andrews. So I slightly lean to the over here for the tight end.
Andrew, what do you think? Mark Andrews, 825.5 over under.
Yeah, I mean, quarterbacks have chemistry with their guy. And I feel like that mix in an injury for Mark Andrews, mixed in what was going on with Lamar Jackson last year. I mean, there's a lot of excuses, I guess, we can build up for Mark Andrews. And you don't like to build excuses for a player. They shouldn't have to have us do that. But I feel like we can see him get back on track. Talk about the wide receiver room and some additions this Ravens team might have made. I don't think that impacts him very much. I think that actually could benefit him. And what I've seen from the offensive coordinator, the quotes I've looked at, this is going to be a very, very pass-friendly, pass-often offense here. And they're going to look towards Mark Andrews. The offensive coordinator has stated how much he loves running plays that benefit the tight end position. So as much as you're adding pieces around him, I still feel like Mark Andrews is that Mr. Reliable. And you can really see, sometimes, guys, when you see a player get injured, you're kind of just like, oh, this guy's, really declining. But if you look last year at what Mark Andrews started and then where he finished, you can really tell. You saw the slow decline. And from where he started last year, he was really impressing me and making big plays and being the guy that we know he's capable of. And as far as their schedule is concerned, it seems to be pretty solid as far as what their opponent's able to do over the past few years against tight ends. So I'll take the over here for Mark Andrews. I'm not really worried or distracted by the pieces being added around Mark Andrews here. And I'm happy that Andrews will have his guy back with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he did go over his total last year, and it was due to the last game of the season. They had a 100-yard game, and he had 9 targets and 9 catches last game of the year to go over. So last year, yeah, without Lamar Jackson, he still had 3 100-yard games. He had 100 yards in the last game of the season. He had 106 against the Giants, 104 against the Dolphins, and for that reason, I like him to go over this total because he's one of the few tight ends that has 100-yard games, potential. He gets 3 or 4 of them a year, and you're halfway there. So we see him be really important at the end of halves in the 2-minute drill, even at the end of games. He just gets peppered with some of these targets. I think Lamar has a really good year. I think he stays healthy. I don't know if I'm saying I think or if I really mean I hope he stays healthy. But the Ravens maybe a little bit of a sleeper. I don't hear a whole lot of buzz about them, but I like their offense. And I think they're a little bit shaky at the running back position. I know they want to try and run the ball, but I'm not sure about the health of some of those guys. So Andrews ends up being one of the top targets in the offense. 825, obviously, you need him and Lamar to be healthy, but just a couple of really big explosive games where he gets over 100 yards, and I think he cruises to this total. So give me Mark Andrews over 825.5 on his receiving total. Shout out to Logan, who's finally in the chat, who was able to catch us live. Glad you could join us. Hector is attempting to guess what Matt's college football team total is. I told him if he had 1,000 chances, he would never guess it. He's guessed one. So he's got 999, and we only got like 10 or 12 minutes left on the show. So you got to pick up the pace there, Hector, if you're trying to guess these. So, Andrew, I'm coming to you. You wanted to talk. You got an NFL prop for Week 1 that you're potentially looking at, and it's coming. Week 1's right around the corner. Hall of Fame game was last week. Signals the start of football season. So, what are you looking for NFL prop Week 1?
Yeah, and just really quick, Andy, I see a lot of people on WagerTalk today or different programs kind of just talking about their strategy and what they're planning on doing for this season. I just want to mention once again, we will be doing some more Prop It Up, not just on Fridays, some social media stuff and all kinds of other stuff this year. So expect lots of prop action from us. But this year, I'm going to have different stuff for quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, defensive props, and you're going to expect a handful of that stuff. And all of those props are going to be put out I'd say, in their own little section. So my clients will expect to get the quarterback props for the week all at the same time, the wide receiver props all at the same time. And of course, there will be stuff added late, if I'm waiting for injuries and updates and different things like that. But I want to make it very clear that there's going to be kind of in waves, the way plays are sent out for me. And that's kind of my plan going into this year, is to kind of log off some time to just kind of, put into each position, and then clients can recognize that each time they're going to be getting, okay, here's a wave of certain plays for this position, wave of certain plays for this, certain, side plays. So for all of you guys out there that get overwhelmed with so many different prop plays, I'll be sending, plays by position. Now, Andy, everyone talks about the Ravens and Coach Harbaugh in the preseason, the success that they've had in the preseason. And, if you take a look at the numbers are unbelievable as far as how that's really translated into week one. You're looking over the years, you see a 38-6, 59-10, 47-3, 20-0. This team gets it done, not just in the preseason, of course, but in week one, because that, in my opinion, it really does translate. If you practice hard, it kind of translates onto the field. Maybe they've had a good schedule. Maybe things have worked out. We're talking about Mark Andrews. We talked a little bit about Lamar Jackson. I am going to be looking to take the longest pass completion over for Lamar Jackson in week one. I know I can't spit a number out, so I will be revisiting this a little bit on our Prop It Up week one show, but I expect Lamar Jackson, after everything that's gone on, after some additions they have made to this team, and for what I expect Baltimore to do to start their season off for the first few weeks, for him to be throwing the ball all over the field. This is a team that always starts their seasons off with a bang. So I'll be looking to take some QB props for Lamar Jackson. Maybe not as much just the entire passing yards, but different props like the longest pass completion and different things like that. So keep an eye on that stuff, guys. And just remember, although it's a prop show, sometimes the teams that play well in the preseason, it does translate into the regular season, especially with certain coaches like Harbaugh.
Oh, Lamar Jackson over longest completion in week one. I did not see that coming. Well done. Love it. That's a great one, Andrew. Andrew's going to do our Prop It Up best bet here at the end of the show. Matt, coming to you. You want to talk just a little bit of MLB, and then give us this win total. It's a team, to be honest, I didn't even really know they had a football team. So give us your MLB thoughts, and give us this win total. I keep telling everybody, nobody does it better with college football plays than Matt Joseph. So happy to have him give us some of his knowledge. So Matt, what do you got for us, MLB and college football?
Yeah, real quick on Major League Baseball, because I'm sure some people are still betting on it. I mean, there's clear some teams who have given up. I mean, asking the Mets to do anything for you, asking some of these bad teams who are kind of in ruts to do anything for you. So you need to look to fade them in different ways. Obviously, Kansas City has won 6 straight. Now they're going to Philadelphia to take on the Phillies, but sometimes these bad teams will find momentary stretches where they start playing better, and you want to kind of ride it a little bit. A couple of real quick trends that I've noticed when it comes to K-props. 13 straight right-handers have had 5 strikeouts or more versus Andrew's Toronto Blue Jays. I have no idea where all this is coming from, but they have struck out a ton lately. Today they're facing a lefty and James Paxton, but in the future, if you're seeing a nice 4.5 against the Toronto Blue Jays, especially from the right-handed side, they have been striking out a lot. The Nationals have started striking out a little bit more as of late because they're starting to play some more rookies. So kind of just pay attention to lineups and things like that. Also, this weekend, we get Dallas Keuchel back, which is fantastic because he's absolutely a disaster. Chris Flexen's pitching today. You want to fade Chris Flexen. So as we get towards the end of the season, the bad pitchers are going to stay bad, and you try and focus on many different ways to fade them when you take a look at that. All right, college football. So that's the sport that everybody's kind of looking at. I sent my clients 2 plays already in college football when it comes to win totals. This may be another one, but we're taking a look at Old Dominion. They are in the Virginia, in the state of Virginia. They're in Norfolk, Virginia. They play in the Sun Belt. out. And, they're not a very good team. And I don't love playing these lower-ended ones and certainly the higher-ended ones like Georgia with their 10.5, and Alabama's got a really high one because there's very little margin for error. But when you look at this Old Dominion team, they lost a ton of players. They actually lost their starting quarterback after the spring. He transferred to Western Michigan, Hayden Wolf. So that's never a good sign. We have no idea who their starting quarterback is going to be. They only have 3 starters back on offense. They only have a couple starters back on defense, although one of them is the nation's leading tackler, Jason Henderson. He had over 180 tackles last year for Old Dominion, but this is a team that I just don't have a lot of faith in. Their total is 3.5. Now, when you take a look at their schedule, their non-conference slate, they're at Virginia Tech. They beat them last year. Virginia Tech better win that game in Blacksburg. They host Wake Forest. That could be a loss because Wake Forest is pretty good. They host a school named Texas A&M Commerce. That should be one of their wins. They also play at Liberty in November. Liberty is a very good football team, especially at home. So I'm only seeing one win in their non-conference. And then the Sun Belt, which is one of the most underrated conferences in America here. They play at Marshall, Southern Miss, JMU, Georgia Southern. Those all should be losses. They host Appalachian State, Louisiana, Coastal Carolina, and Georgia State. Maybe they get a win or two there, but even then, you're still looking at 3. So I like under 3.5 wins for Old Dominion. Make sure to shop around. Different books have different juices, different numbers as well. There's actually some teams in college football who have 3 different win totals depending upon the sports book. So as we always say on this show, shop around, give yourself a bunch of options, because if you like an over and a book has a number that's better than the other book, then take that one. So under 3.5 wins for Old Dominion this coming season. The Monarchs are going to be pretty bad.
Hector in the chat says he was just getting ready to guess that one, Matt. So I guess that was his second pick. Guess. Old Dominion under. So, Matt, tell everyone where we can find you at, what you have up for this weekend.
Yeah, sportsmemo.com is where you can find me. College football stuff, obviously, getting close to the season, up over 150 units, #1 on both sites. I also put up a 5% season NFL play that I like on FanDuel. If you've watched the show, you probably know what it is. We've talked about this guy on the show. I just fired away on a good number on FanDuel, so there is a 5% NFL player prop that I really love, and I ran it by the guys. They like it as well, so you can find that at sportsmemo.com.
Before we get to Andrew and his best bet for the show, I'm going to go over a couple of UFC props that I like. We've seen spreads in UFC becoming more and more popular, especially on DraftKings. The very first fight of the night, Odie Osborne, the point spread is +3.5. It's a little juicy at -145. Not only do I like the spread, I think he's a live dog in that one. I'm not really sure why this debutant is -190. I know Asu Amabayev is a wrestler and can probably take Odie down at times, but Odie's better on the feet, and Odie is not great, but he's a UFC veteran. This match really, really confuses me. But taking +3.5 means that you need Odie to win one round. If he wins one fight, you still cash it. So I like that one. And then on the Road to Millions video, which we recorded earlier, I gave out a to start round 2 parlay. I like Cody Durden and Jake Hadley to start round 2. It's kind of a little bit of a grudge match. They're not big fans of each other. I think the fight may start off pretty intense the first minute, and then they calm down when they realize there's no way they can keep that intensity. I think they're evenly matched. Jake Hadley is going to be quick on the feet. Cody Durden is going to want to wrestle. And I think it just kind of becomes 2 pretty evenly matched guys going for quite a while. So I like that to start round 2. And then, Andrew, I like Tatiana Suarez and Jessica Andrade to start round 2. I don't understand why this line is so big. Tatiana Suarez was off for years with injuries. She likes to take her opponents down and completely maul them, except she didn't really do that in her return. You know, she got the second round finish, but that was against De La Rosa, who's not great. Andrade, you know, listen, we all know she's kind of wrapping up her career. This is an OnlyFans theory. She's at the end of her career. She started an OnlyFans
I was
page.
waiting.
Yeah, and this is her 4th fight this year. She's like, give me all the fights I can possibly cram in towards the end of the year. But Andrade is fast. She's strong. I don't see Andrade finishing Suarez early, and I just don't think Suarez has it in her to finish Andrade. Maybe she can get her on the ground, but Andrade isn't going out without a fight. So if you parlay those two, you get a really, really nice price. And those are a couple props that I talked about a little bit more in detail on the Road to Millions. So I have a UFC PFL pack that is up right now. If you're just getting one thing of mine today, grab the MLB 2-pack. We're 4-0 in August, hit 62% since June 1st. So we've been seeing Major League Baseball really, really well. Got two great plays that I'm really confident in. So grab those up at WagerTalk.com. All right, Andrew, tell us what you got up. And it is your turn for the Prop It Up Best Bet of the Week. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Andy, things have been pretty good as far as baseball is concerned. Hit an under with my Toronto Blue Jays and the Orioles yesterday. Fortunately, that was with the Blue Jays continuing to embarrass themselves and not being able to hit the ball. So as a fan, I didn't really like it. But as far as a sports bettor, I'm cashing some tickets and sticking with the team totals quite a bit as well. As far as the CFL, I believe in full transparency. It's been a real rough one to start the year, Andy, but the big ones have hit, 75% hit rate here on the 5% plays. Like I said, I do have a 5% CFL play going on Sunday. So if there's one thing you can count on for me right now, it is these big bets in the CFL. Maybe these small ones, I'm just they're not figuring those out. But the big bets, we're hitting those, and we're feeling pretty good about going into Sunday. This play stuck out to me right away. I feel like it's a really good situational spot, so I'll be jumping in on that one. You can get that at wt.buzz/am. Don't forget to check out 2 and Out, our CFL show, myself, Carmine, and Rob Braley. You talked about some fights could be boring or what a rest could do and being away from the octagon to a fighter, Andy. Well, I'm going to look at Lopez versus Tucker. Here's Gavin Tucker. He hasn't fought in over 2.5 years in the UFC. He's been injured, fighting back problems, a lot of different stuff going on. But you've got a guy off a KO against Dan Ige. His opponent, Lopez, is winless in the UFC. Taking a look at Lopez, 21 of his 27 fights in his career have seen the fight end inside the distance. Tucker, 4 of his last 5 in his career and 11 of his last 15 overall have ended inside the distance. As far as Lopez, he has a very high rate of submission attempts. As far as Tucker is concerned, he just absolutely creates the pace. He will bring it. He does not slow things down. I don't see a conservative play style from either of these guys here. I think this one ends early second round at the latest. To me, when I look at fighters that aren't active very much, some people kind of get it, I think, misunderstood that they're going to come in and take things easy. I feel like the message is that they have to go out there and execute the game plan ASAP. You remember certain fighters that are fighting 4 or 5 times a year. In my opinion, those are the guys that are winning via decision, not the guys that are taking, 2-3 years off for different reasons. So it might be a little bit of a juicy price here, but at -165, I'm taking Lopez and Tucker to end inside the distance here, UFC on Saturday night.
Cannot disagree with that one at all. That one's going to be a banger. Love the aggression of Tucker and Lopez, man. He's going to be throwing up submission attempts all fight long. That's good. That's going to be a fun fight. You're right. That could be fight of the night. Absolutely. So great job, everyone in the chat room. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button. Please leave a comment below about what NFL player or team you'd like us to go over next week. That's kind of where we pick our content for next week's show. So make sure you leave it in the comment section, and let's cash some tickets. Thank you, Matt Josephs at sportsmemo.com, Andrew McGinnis at WagerTalk.com. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Let's have a great weekend as we get closer and closer to college and NFL season, and we will see everyone next Friday on Prop It Up.